Ever heard of a city so powerful it made Rome tremble? A civilization of master sailors and shrewd merchants who built an empire that stretched across the Mediterranean. Today, we're journeying back in time to uncover the incredible story of Carthage, a city born from legend, forged in trade, and ultimately destroyed by its greatest rival. Our story begins around 814 BC on the coast of what is now modern-day Tunisia. Legend tells us of Queen Dido, also known as Alyssa, a princess fleeing a treacherous brother in the Phoenician city of Tyre. She landed on the North African shore, seeking to buy land from the local Berber king. The king, thinking he could outsmart her, offered her only as much land as could be covered by a single oxide. But Dido was no ordinary princess. She was brilliant. She had the oxide cut into incredibly thin strips, laid them end to end, and encircled a whole hill, which became the heart of her new city, Carthage, the new city, or as we know it, Carthage. From this legendary beginning, Carthage grew. Its location was a stroke of genius. Perched on a peninsula, it had access to two magnificent harbors. One was a rectangular port for its massive fleet of merchant ships. The other, a circular, heavily fortified military harbor called the Carthage, could hide over 200 warships from prying eyes. This strategic position allowed Carthage to control the vital sea lanes of the Western Mediterranean. The Carthaginians were Phoenicians, the ancient world's greatest seafarers. They inherited a legacy of exploration and trade, and they perfected it. Their ships, the famous biremes and quinqueremes, sailed to Spain for silver, to Britain for tin, and down the coast of Africa for gold and ivory. They established trading posts and colonies all over, from Sicily and Sardinia to the coasts of Spain. Carthage wasn't just a city. It was the capital of a sprawling maritime empire built on commerce, not conquest. At its height, the city itself was a marvel, home to hundreds of thousands of people, with towering apartment buildings, bustling markets, and sacred temples. But as Carthage's influence grew, it was bound to clash with another rising power in the Mediterranean, the Roman Republic. At first, they were cautious allies, signing treaties to define their spheres of influence, but their ambitions were too big for one sea. The flashpoint was the island of Sicily, a strategic and agricultural prize that both powers coveted. This rivalry would ignite a series of three epic conflicts known as the Punic Wars, a struggle for survival that would last for over a century. The First Punic War, which began in 264 BC, was primarily a naval conflict. Rome, a land-based power, had to build a navy from scratch. They famously captured a Carthaginian warship and reverse-engineered it, adding an innovation of their own, the corvus, a boarding bridge that allowed their superior legionaries to fight on the sea as if on land. After more than 20 years of brutal fighting, Rome emerged victorious, forcing Carthage to give up Sicily and pay a hefty war indemnity. This defeat was a bitter pill for Carthage. Humiliated and financially crippled, the city faced a revolt from its own unpaid mercenaries. It was during this crisis that a new family rose to prominence. The boss, the head of this powerful clan, Hamilcar Barca, hated Rome with a passion. He took control of Carthaginian forces and carved out a new territory in Spain, rebuilding Carthage's wealth and power. It's said that he made his young son, Hannibal, swear a sacred oath to be an eternal enemy of Rome. And Hannibal would more than live up to that oath. Upon his father's death, Hannibal Barca took command and masterminded one of the most audacious military campaigns in history, sparking the Second Punic War. In 218 BC, he marched his army complete with dozens of war elephants out of Spain, across the Pyrenees Mountains, and over the treacherous snow-covered Alps into Italy itself. It was a move no Roman had ever anticipated. For the next 15 years, Hannibal terrorized Italy. He was a tactical genius, inflicting a series of devastating defeats on the Romans. At the Battle of Trebia, the Battle of Lake Trasimene, and most famously, the Battle of Cannae, he annihilated entire Roman armies. At Cannae, Hannibal used a brilliant double envelopment tactic to encircle and destroy a Roman force almost twice the size of his own. It remains a masterpiece of military strategy studied to this day. Rome was in a state of panic. Hannibal was at the gates. But Hannibal had a problem. Though he could defeat Roman armies in the field, he couldn't break their network of loyal allies or successfully besiege the city of Rome itself. The Romans, meanwhile, adopted a new strategy under a general named Fabius Maximus. They avoided direct battle with Hannibal, instead shadowing his army and waging a war of attrition, earning Fabius the nickname the Delayer. While Hannibal was tied down in Italy, a new Roman general, Scipio, took the fight to Carthage's home turf. Scipio conquered Carthaginian territories in Spain and then did the unthinkable. He invaded North Africa, threatening Carthage directly. This forced Carthage to recall Hannibal from Italy to defend his homeland. The two legendary generals finally met at the Battle of Zama in 202 BC here. Scipio, having studied Hannibal's tactics, used them against him. He neutralized Hannibal's elephants and outmaneuvered his cavalry, handing Hannibal his first and only major defeat. The Second Punic War was over. Rome's terms were even harsher this time. Carthage lost all its overseas territories, its navy was dismantled, and it was forbidden from waging war without Rome's permission. It was effectively a client state. For the next 50 years, Carthage focused on peaceful trade and agriculture, and remarkably, it recovered its prosperity. But in Rome, there were those who could not forget the fear Hannibal had inspired. One senator, Cato the Elder, was so obsessed with the idea of a Carthaginian resurgence that he famously ended every speech he gave, no matter the topic, with the words, "Carthago delenda est, Carthage must be destroyed." This relentless paranoia finally led to the Third Punic War. In 149 BC, Rome used a minor dispute between Carthage and a neighboring kingdom as a pretext to declare war. The Romans besieged the city for 3 long, grueling years. The Carthaginians, knowing this was a fight for their very existence, mounted a heroic defense. Men, women, and children worked tirelessly, even using their own hair to make ropes for catapults. But the outcome was inevitable. In 146 BC, the Roman legions, led by Scipio Aemilianus, the adopted grandson of the Scipio who defeated Hannibal, finally breached the walls. What followed was one of the most brutal sacks of a city in ancient history. For 6 days, the Romans fought street by street, slaughtering the inhabitants. The survivors, about 50,000 people, were sold into slavery. The Romans were not content with just conquering the city, they wanted to erase it. They burned Carthage to the ground. The story goes that they then plowed the land and sowed it with salt so that nothing would ever grow there again. While the salt part is likely a later embellishment, the message was clear. The rivalry was over. Rome was the undisputed master of the Mediterranean. But is that truly the end of the story? Not quite. About a century later, the Romans themselves, under Julius Caesar and later Augustus, rebuilt a new city on the same site. Roman Carthage became one of the most important cities in the Roman Empire, a major hub for trade and the export of grain to Rome. The legacy of Carthage, its strategic location and commercial spirit, lived on, even under the rule of its conquerors. Today, the ruins of ancient Carthage stand as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a quiet testament to a lost civilization. It's a story of incredible ambition, brilliant innovation, legendary heroes, and ultimately, tragic destruction. The tale of Carthage and Rome is more than just a history of wars. It's a timeless saga of 2 superpowers locked in a struggle that shaped the course of Western civilization. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next historical deep dive. Let us know in the comments what other ancient civilizations you'd like to see us cover. See you next time.